The corridor outside hearing room C was already full by 8:45, and Jonah Teal had claimed the last bench along the east wall. He was 23, 6 weeks into his first planning internship, and he had come to watch the Harwick Federal Building's zoning panel the way a medical student comes to observe surgery, unsure of the protocol, careful not to touch anything. The morning light came in flat and wide through the tall windows. Attorneys sorted papers. A city planner from the third floor balanced a coffee and a folder. The gallery benches held a dozen civilians, a neighborhood association rep, 2 journalists, a man in a postal uniform who appeared to have wandered in by accident. Jonah was watching the docket sheet taped to the hearing room door when she arrived. She came from the elevator at the corridor's far end, a black woman in a gray wool coat, a leather portfolio under one arm, moving at the unhurried pace of someone who knew exactly where she was going and had been there before. She was not tall, but she carried herself as though she were, shoulders level, chin steady, heels quiet on the marble floor. Jonah did not know who she was. He noticed her the way you notice someone whose composure fills the space around them. Warren Felt noticed her too. Felt was the lead attorney for Galloway Meridian Partners, the development firm whose mixed-use tower was first on that morning's docket. He was 50-something, silver-haired, in a suit that announced its own cost, and he had spent the last 10 minutes positioning himself near the hearing room doors with the air of a man guarding something. When the woman in the gray coat reached the double doors, he stepped sideways into her path. "Excuse me." His voice was pleasant, the pleasantness a thin coat over something else. "This corridor is for legal staff and panelists only past this point. Public gallery is behind the benches." She stopped. She looked at him with an expression that gave nothing away. "I'm aware of the layout," she said. Her voice was even, unhurried. "I have business past those doors." "I'm sure you do." The pleasant coat slipped a little. "But I'm going to need you to wait with the others until the clerk opens up. It's protocol." Jonah watched from his bench. The man in the postal uniform looked up. One of the journalists lowered a pen. The woman set her portfolio against her hip and looked at Warren Felt with the patient focus of someone deciding how much of their morning to spend on this. "My name is Dr. Camille Osei," she said. "I'm the director of the city's Office of Urban Planning. If you'd like to verify that, the clerk's office is the second door on your left." "I'll wait." Felt did not move to the clerk's office. He shifted his weight instead, a small, telling movement, and said, "I don't think that's necessary. The panelists were introduced at the 8:30 briefing, and I don't believe you were." "Were you at the 8:30 briefing?" she asked. A beat of silence. "I was in the prep room," he said. "Then you weren't at the briefing." She said it without emphasis, a simple correction, and looked at the hearing room doors. Felt's jaw tightened. He turned and flagged down a security aide named Marcus Dewey, who had been standing near the elevator with the alert stillness of someone paid to notice things. "This woman needs to be redirected to the gallery," Felt said. "Can you help with that?" Marcus Dewey walked over. He looked at Felt. He looked at Dr. Osei. He had worked security in this building for 11 years. He had seen every variety of lawyer in this corridor, and he recognized the specific quality of stillness in the woman in the gray coat. It was not the stillness of someone out of place. It was the stillness of someone waiting for a room to catch up. "Ma'am, can I get your name?" he asked. "Dr. Camille Osei. Director, Office of Urban Planning." Marcus nodded once and spoke quietly into his radio. Jonah had straightened on his bench without realizing it. Around him, the corridor had gone still. The neighborhood association rep had folded her papers. The 2 journalists were watching. Even the man in the postal uniform had stopped looking confused and started paying attention. Felt said, "Look, I'm not trying to make a scene, I'm simply ensuring that the proceedings." "Mr. Felt." Dr. Osei said his name the way you say a word you've had to spell twice. Quiet. Final. "You introduced yourself to my colleague at the 8:30 briefing I did not attend because I was reviewing your client's application file. I know who you are. I've asked you once to verify my credentials. You chose not to. That's your prerogative. I'm content to wait where everyone can see me." She took one step back from the doors and stood in the center of the corridor. Not retreating. Simply choosing her ground. The hearing room doors opened at 9 o'clock exactly. A clerk named Patricia Sohn pushed both doors wide and read from her clipboard in the practiced, carrying voice of someone who had opened 100 hearings. Good morning. Hearing room C is now open for the Harwick Zoning Panel, Session 21. Panel Chair is Dr. Camille Osei, Director, City Office of Urban Planning. Panelists, please proceed to the table. Gallery may enter and be seated in the left rows. Jonah heard someone exhale. He was not sure if it was him. The corridor did not erupt. It did something quieter and more permanent, it shifted. Every face turned toward Warren Felt. The journalists' pens came up. The Neighborhood Association rep pressed her lips together. Marcus Dewey looked at the middle distance with the dignified neutrality of a man who had heard everything on his radio that he needed to hear. Felt stood very still in a way that had nothing to do with composure. Dr. Osei picked up her portfolio and walked through the open doors without looking at him. She greeted the other two panelists by name, set her materials at the center chair, and sat down. Jonah found a seat in the gallery. He watched her organize her papers with the unhurried precision of someone who had been doing this a long time. The microphone in front of her chair was already live, a small green light at its base. Patricia Sohn announced the first agenda item. It was the Galloway Meridian Partners Tower application. Jonah saw Felt come in and take his seat at the applicant's table. The man's face had gone careful and bloodless. Across the table, Dr. Osei looked at the application file and said, without expression, "Counsel, please state your client's name for the record." The hearing proceeded. It was orderly, thorough, and entirely without drama. Dr. Osei asked questions that were precise and unanswerable with anything less than a direct fact. She gave Felt's client a fair hearing. She gave every party a fair hearing. That was the point. That had always been the point. A panel chair is not a prize, it is a responsibility, and she carried it the way she had carried herself in the corridor, steady, prepared, and exactly where she was supposed to be. The Galloway Meridian application was tabled that morning pending a supplemental traffic study. That was a procedural outcome, one that would have occurred regardless. But by midday, the building's compliance officer had received a formal complaint, filed by Marcus Dewey's supervisor at the security desk, regarding a member of the public who had impeded a panel officer's access to a hearing room. The Bar Association's Conduct Review Committee received a parallel notice the following afternoon, citing conduct unbecoming during courthouse proceedings. Galloway Meridian Partners, advised by their general counsel, requested that Warren Felt step back from the zoning matter to avoid any appearance of conflict arising from the incident. He did. Jonah wrote 3 pages of notes that night, none of them about zoning law. He wrote about what the corridor had looked like in those 60 seconds after Patricia Sohn opened the doors. The way the room had shifted without a word. The way Dr. Osei had walked through and taken her seat, and the small green light on the microphone had been on the whole time, and the hearing had begun, and the work had gotten done. He wrote, she didn't need anyone in that corridor to believe her. She only needed to wait long enough for the truth to be read aloud. He thought about that for a long time.